Broadcasting live from the swamplands, it's Salamander Gecko. And for today's video, instead of talking about crocodiles or alligators or dolphins or any of my favorite animals that have the capacity to maim, today we'll be talking about just one shark, and that's Kenny the shark. So, this video is going to be an analysis of the 2003 through 2005 American animated television show, Kenny the Shark, including the characters of the program, and studying the scientific accuracy of Kenny's species, which is the tiger shark. So basically, I just want to discuss why I like this show and how scientifically accurate it is. By the way, my name is Salamander Gecko, and on this YouTube channel we talk about crocodiles, alligators, dolphins, pretty much any dangerous animal with teeth. Kat lived this salamander's dream. She could skateboard, she had cool hippie parents, she lived a walk away from the beach, and she was best friends with a real shark. Catching this animated show on TV was kind of a luxury for me. In fact, at the time, I didn't even know what station it was being broadcast on. But I have a really vivid and comforting memory of sitting on the couch one summer night and watching the show about this really cool girl who had this really cool life and this really cool friend who was a shark. The station that ran the show was called Discovery Kids, and we would go through times when we had the special cable packages. We would go through times where we had the special cable packages where we had HBO and Nicktoons Network and even Nick2, and when we had it, it was really, really special because I was able to see things outside of our basic cable worlds. But getting back to Kenny, Kat, and the rest of the cast of the early 2000s animated show, Kenny the Shark is just the star shark Kenny and his owner, an athletic, easygoing, and shark-obsessed girl who lives on the West Coast, Tiburon, California, which isn't some fictional any coast USA. It's a real area which as of 2024 has a population of 9,146. This might be a bold take, but I'd swim as far to say that American animation networks wouldn't be so established without Canadian animation, voice actors, or television programs. So it did surprise me that this show is not Canadian. So no one has to do any hardcore Harvard-style investigative work to find Kenny's story. The theme song will tell it right to you in a fun, bright, oceanside musical narrative. For whatever reason, Kenny tires of the brine and wants to move to land. He found himself in a pet store where he's met by the Cassidys. The most important Cassidy is Katerina, who knew she would make friends with Kenny the moment her twinkling eyes met his cold shark ones. Despite Kat being the collected and intelligent girl that she is, the show, it seems, wants to let the viewer know that she's sort of an oddball in her town. The year is 2003. Kenny lives with the Cassidys, and while Kat's at school hanging out with her friend Oscar, Kenny hangs out with the neighborhood wiener dog named Marty. And the two are very close with each other, and it makes sense that Kenny would probably need a non-human friend to speak to. The show has a color palette of bold neons, which are my favorite. Not every color is a cartoonish bold. It does balance with still bright but calming muted shades. The detail in every episode is just enough. It can look impressionist when the artists make little scribbles in the background of the Cassidy's home, for an example. The lines that make the characters are sharp but not jarringly so. It's not a brain rot battery of colorful pictures with a plot. Everyone watching this show can learn something. It's got a pacing that's not too fast, despite all the episodes being only 11 minutes long. There aren't any clashing sounds to skyrocket you into an anger-induced sensory overload. The voice acting is, there's that word again, calming. Kenny, being the shark that he is, he's all teeth and no breaks, and the show wants you to understand Kenny eats first and question things later. Now, I had a lot of fun researching these characters, and it was really one of the best parts of the video for me, so I'm just going to talk about some of the Kenny the Shark characters. I hope you're okay with that. Besides Kenny, there's Oscar, Kat's friend, who's very proud of his ancestors, the Mayans. When he's on screen, he'll tell Kat all sorts of things about the ancient Mayans, which is, really cool. There's Kat's parents. Her father is a shop owner, and I don't think you could capture any stronger dad essence if you tried. Just looking at this guy, yep, that's someone's father. He also looks like he smells like seawater to me. The show never states that he likes the beach, but the show says that the 1970s were canonically his glory days. He'll call his wife and daughter vegetable and fruit themed nicknames, and I think that's a nice highlight on who he is since he's vegetarian. There is nothing he wouldn't do for his family, who is his wife, who's a psychologist, his daughter Kat, and Carl, his infant son. Kat's mother is a psychologist who, in episode 1, is trying to cure one of her clients of his numbing terror of sharks. It's also canon that she's very good at helping people take care of their mental health. She's just as health conscious as Kat's father, though she isn't vegan. Both of Kat's parents are loving, and it's clear as the waves in the Gulf that Kat, Carl, and Kenny live in a happy home. And then there's Marty the wiener dog. I'm sure he would be lonely without Kenny too. Marty is a well taken care of dog with a high pitched voice and a New York inflection. Him and Kenny bond over being animals and eating raw meat and enjoying other stuff that dogs and sharks would have in common. We don't figure that much about Marty, but he's loyal and he's got a heart big enough to fill all the holes in his owner's yard that he's dug up. Now, every show needs a good pirate or sailor type character, and I'll expect no less from Kenny the Shark. Captain Ahab is the one to fit the watery description. He's got it all: the garb, the accent, the hatred for sharks. Yeah, the captain's kind of a villain. He used to harpoon sharks back in his days on the sea. And every show needs a classic antagonist. So here's billionaire brat Burton Plush Toy. Burton Plush Toy here is Kat's Remy Bucks aplenty, her Princess Morbucks. Like, he's super spoiled and rich, and they do not like each other. More like Burton wants a shark and is weirdly fixated on Kenny. He can buy any shark in any ocean, but he wants Kat's Kenny. Burton is a special type of rancid. He buys animals not because he's interested in the animals, but he keeps them as living trophies rather than pets. He doesn't even take them outside, it seems like. He's got them all chained via their necks, and he regularly threatens them if they don't do things to amuse him. To me, Burton represents the worst type of views on animals. He doesn't think about them needing freedom to move around, which is why he chains them. He looks at animals and he thinks to themselves, how can these animals serve me? And when he shark naps Kenny, he realizes that Kenny isn't some nautical wind-up toy, so he decides to let Kenny out of the massive tank and eat him. The money, the selfishness, the immediate gratification. He's a billionaire. And now, here are the characters that make the show. It all started when a shark met Lan, and he was adopted by the Cassidy family because of a girl named Kat. Kat, the skateboarding, surfing, vegetarian shark girl, as some folks call her, is Kenny's owner, though there are episodes where they act more like siblings or friends. There's nothing on all 5 coasts Kat wouldn't do for Kenny, and if you watch the show, you'll know it. Kat uses her allowance money to give Kenny extra treats. She sacrifices her sleep just so she can take Kenny all over town in one episode. Sometimes it seems like the only thing she hasn't done is cut off one of her limbs for the shark. Kat's proclivity to harping on about her favorite animal sort of isolates her from the others she goes to school with. And this gives the trio of alpha bullies, each one named Phoebe, a bright and shiny reason to bully her. In their eyes, she's a sea dweeb who could use a better style. And that's something that makes Kat stand out from other animated characters. She's devoted her free time to study her favorite animal. She gives so much to make sure her shark is content, and she knows the path she's walking on. Kat isn't a Mary Sue either. Like anyone, she can let her thoughts leap ahead of her, thus clouding her usually calm eyes. She, like her pet, will bite off more than she can chew during certain episodes. And in the one called Kenny the Veggie, she decides to become a vegetarian and irresponsibly coaxes Kenny into walking into this new journey with her. The reason that Kat and Kenny can communicate with each other is that Kat can speak the language of the sharks. And speak of the shark, here's Kenny. Kenny is a shark. If there was ever going to be a cartoon shark, its personality would be Kenny's. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat Kenny's salty personality. This shark doesn't sit there and take any human. Kenny's kind of a blowhole to the only human that goes out of her way for him. He won't hesitate to ask for too much one cat can do. He's as opportunistic as the average alligator, always using anything as an excuse to eat. And the show will make you learn today. Kenny eats. He's a lot like Gus, the alligator from the actual Canadian animated show Willis Wildlife. Kenny eats things that aren't meant to be eaten, i.e. he swallows a bunch of antique objects during one episode, he enjoys the taste of them, And just like Willa's pet alligator, Gus will eat anything and let everyone know how great they taste. Wouldn't Kenny get sick if he continued to eat all those man-made items? The dry answer is yes. Sharks have stomachs rife with acid, though they still don't compare to the acidity of a croc's stomach acids. Not to be shady to any sharks reading this or watching this. Seriously, it's not even crocodiles who have the strongest stomach acids, it's the vulture. Which means that the animal with the strongest stomach acid in the animal kingdom is also still not a shark. However, Kenny would have to get rid of all the hard metal or chemically made items he ingested. The show highlights this by stating that yes, to get rid of the non-edibles, he can turn his stomach inside out like a handbag. If you remember how I wrote about Kat sacrificing so much of her free time to Kenny, I'll tell you she also sacrifices her sleep. I already said that. I'm very dizzy. I'm sorry. Why? Kenny can't sleep at night, so Kat decides to take the shark to the nightlife. The entire plot revolves around Kenny not being able to sleep because tiger sharks don't sleep. I wish Kat and her family were real. The show has been nothing but a collection of fan art and reruns on sale on DVD for 20 years now. I would love to see where Kat is now. What sort of career would she have? How is she spreading awareness for the ocean and the animals in it? If you're like me, you like learning about animals with teeth. You like learning about animals with claws. And you might like watching Kenny the Shark. So, did you guys like the show growing up? Did you get to watch it more often than I did? Did it ignite your, fire for the water? Or did it just help you dive into something you were interested in? I had a lot of fun, talking about the show. I had a lot of fun going back to it. And I had a lot of fun watching the show again. I had a lot of fun looking back at the characters. I had a lot of fun looking at the designs. And I especially had a lot of fun seeing how they incorporated all the shark facts into followable and digestible entertainment. So if you like this video, subscribe. Maybe I did have a lot of fun making it. And I wanted to talk about more animation on this YouTube channel. My next video that I'm working on right now is going to be about the 1997 movie Pippi Longstocking, the 1997 animated movie Pippi Longstocking.